everyone, this is Karen.
Hello everybody, welcome back. I am Shane.
Today we're looking at part 2 of Are punctuation marks coming to a full stop? And the vocabulary words are text.
Text.
Did you read the text I sent you this morning?
No.
Come on, Shane.
Hope it wasn't important.
It's always important.
Emphasis.
Emphasis.
Carrie repeated herself, this time with more emphasis.
Generation.
Generation.
The director's work has influenced generations of movie fans.
Otherwise.
Otherwise.
You should bring your umbrella. Otherwise, you will get wet in the rain.
Impression.
Impression.
During a job interview, it's important to make a good impression.
So speaking of good impressions, I think that one place that it's still quite important to use punctuation correctly is when you're writing something formal.
You're right.
If you're writing something for school, an essay, or you're writing something for a book or a newspaper, punctuation is quite important.
That's
because it'll give a bad impression if you give somebody a paper and the punctuation is wrong.
That's right. And sometimes they might get the wrong idea. They might not be able to understand your idea fully if the punctuation marks are not right.
But texting has really changed the need for proper punctuation.
That's right. Because I feel like texting or instant messaging is more like chatting with your friends. And it's more casual.
Yeah, and it's almost, if you use too much punctuation or you care too much about it, you might feel a little bit cold or too strict.
Too
formal, right.
That's
so
right.
now we have things like emojis, and you can even use GIFs and all kinds of things to express your emotions.
You're right.
To communicate how you feel.
So maybe in the future, when people are just, instant messaging or texting, maybe eventually we just won't use punctuation marks anymore.
Yeah, I never put a period at the end of a text. I feel that is a bit cold.
But you still put a question mark when you ask a question, though, don't you?
Good point. Okay, you got me. You got me. All right, what do you guys do?
Okay, tell us, okay?
Okay.
Are punctuation marks coming to a full stop?
Today, instant messaging and social media have changed the way we write, including how we use punctuation. Until recently, the period marked the end of a sentence. But in the context of instant messaging, the act of sending a text itself can be considered a full stop, so the period is no longer necessary. In fact, ending a sentence with a full stop in online chats can seem unfriendly and cold. Instead, to express friendliness and enthusiasm, writers often end their sentences with an exclamation mark.
Today's lesson is called, Are punctuation marks coming to a full stop? Part 2. Hello everyone. My name is Jeff.
And I'm Mike. And one of the interesting things about the English language is that it's always changing and evolving. As we know, many of the new words we use today come from the world of technology, words like email, smartphone, internet, and also the language is changing in how we use punctuation, also because of technology. People are using punctuation less. When you send off a message, especially a short message sent by text, many people don't use periods to show the end of a sentence. That's one very noticeable way that punctuation is changing.
I've heard that ending a text with a period means that you're angry.
We're going to find out about that.
Someone. Yeah. Anyways, today, instant messaging and social media have changed the way we write, including how we use punctuation. Now, until recently, the period marked the end of a sentence. No emotions were involved.
Right.
The sentence was just over.
That's it. You would use the period to show that the sentence is over and maybe definitely a new sentence and maybe a new idea is going to follow. But it says in the context of instant messaging, the act of sending a text itself can be considered a full stop. So the period is no longer necessary. Well, it's kind of true. Some people, they don't write more than one sentence before they hit that send button. Other people might write 2 or 3, in which case, yes, using a period is still useful, but if it's just, hey, how are you? Send. Do you want to meet for coffee? Send. I'll be free at 5 o'clock. Send. You might not need that period because the text is the sentence. Now, when we talk about text here, we're talking about writing. If you read a book, all those letters and lines and sentences written on the page, that is the text. You can read the text out loud, you can read the text in your head. If you're writing text. But here, we're talking about those short messages that we send by phone. That's what a text is here, and we also use it when we say texting, writing a short message on a phone. If you're writing a story with a pen or something on paper, you're not texting, you're writing text. But if you're actually using it as a verb, you're writing a short message by a phone. In either case, it's still a text. All right, so for example, we could say, did you read the text I sent you this morning? That would be the short, simple message on your smartphone.
There you go. Now, the period.
Yes.
Again, when you're reading a book, a period just says, hey, this is the end of a sentence and a new one is going to begin.
Otherwise, it would just kind of run together like this and you wouldn't know when the one sentence ends.
Exactly.
It wouldn't make sense.
Okay? But with texting, the rules have changed. In fact, our article continues, ending a sentence with a full stop in online chats can seem unfriendly and cold.
Wow.
So you put that period there and people think you're mad at them for some reason, or cold, not a nice person or a warm or friendly person. So instead, to express friendliness and enthusiasm, writers often end their sentences with an exclamation mark. Or many, many exclamation marks. The exclamation mark is way overused these days in texts.
Because people are trying to show enthusiasm and excitement for something. But you're right. Let's take a break, and then we'll be back with more exclamation mark.
Hello， 大家好，我是 Hanny。第一天的课文简单介绍了标点符号的历史。那我们今天来看看科技如何影响标点符号的发展。课文写到说，即时通讯和社群媒体已经改变了人们书写方式以及标点符号的使用方式。那有一个很显著的例子就是句号的使用。好，我们文中用到 instant messaging， 它指的是即时通讯 ；social media 是社群媒体。那么 Mike 老师刚刚说到很显著，我们用到这个 noticeable 这个字，就是在 notice 后面加上 able， 变成这个形容词是形容值得注意的或是显著的。好，那我们以前呢写完一个句子，然后再标上句号，就是再自然不过的事了。可是现在用 Line、用脸书等等，在传讯息的时候，我们可能打完一句话或是打完几个字就直接按传送，似乎没有必要使用句号诶。而且有时候呢，你在线上聊天刻意用句号来结束句子，看起来就会有那种不友善或是冷漠的感觉。好的，逗号，谢谢，句号，好像有点冷漠，对不对？好，那么相对的，如果要表达友善啊，表达热情，人们就常常会用惊叹号，好像越多惊叹号就越热情 ，Hanny， 然后惊叹号10个，就会觉得哇，好热情哦。好，这边有一个单字 text。text 它当名词可以指文本，那么在课文里面呢是指简讯，而这个字当动词也可以表达传简讯的意思。另外我们也常常用 text message 来表达短讯、简讯。好，那我们接着回到课文中。
Are punctuation marks coming to a full stop?
Meanwhile, periods may be used for emphasis by placing one after each word. In addition, while older generations of writers had only punctuation marks at their disposal, today we also have emojis for expressing emotions. For instance, we can use a laughing emoji to express laughter or a crying emoji to signify sadness.
Mike, let's keep talking about punctuation. Now notice that the way that I said that, I separated each word with a full stop, a period. I see this very often these days. Yeah, the next sentence tells us, meanwhile, periods, full stops, may be used for emphasis, I should say, by placing one after each word.
Right.
Oh my goodness, it drives me nuts. Anyways, let's talk about the word emphasis. Let's say that you are teaching a class, okay? You're the teacher. And there's a really important point that you want to get across. Chances are you are going to highlight that point. You are going to say, everybody, pay attention now. Pay attention to this because it's important. If that's the case, you are placing emphasis on that point. That's the idea here. For example, Carrie repeated herself, this time with more emphasis.
In addition, while older generations of writers had only punctuation marks at their disposal, today we also have emojis for expressing emotions. So
there's just way too many.
There's a lot of them, but that means if you want to express emphasis or your emotions, you don't need to use the question marks or the exclamation points. You can use an emoji of the question face or the happy face or the excited face or something like that. That's what the younger generation might do, but the older generation, before texting and emojis, they only had punctuation. But you can see how things are different between generations. What is a generation? Basically, it's the difference in age and time and also culture between older people and younger people. The music you listen to, the clothes you wear, the things that you do, this is different from what your parents did, and your parents' generation is different from their parents as well. These are different generations. Grandparents to children,
kids.
3 generations, all right? And we also talk about the differences between these, because that's the really interesting part. For example, the director's work has influenced generations of movie fans.
Anyways, more on emoji. For instance, we can use a laughing emoji to express laughter, okay? Or a crying emoji to signify sadness.
Yeah.
No need for punctuation at all. Interesting. All right, folks, with that, it's time for us to take a break. But don't go away. We'll be back soon with the best show ever.
Thumbs up emoji.
刚刚说到，在线上聊天时，如果用句号来结束句子，会给人一种冷漠的感觉。不过呢，现在人们有时候也会在每个字后面加上一个句号来作为强调。好，那么单字 emphasis 这个名词就表示重点强调，那么它的动词是 emphasize， 把字尾的 is 改成 ize 就变这个动词了 emphasize， 它表示强调或是着重。我们也可以用 highlight 这个动词 highlight highlight 表示强调或是使什么显著突出。好 Jeff 老师在解释单字时用到一个片语叫做 get something across to somebody， 这表示说把某事传达给某人，让某人了解某事的意思。好，那么课文接着写到说，此外，虽然老一辈的作者只有标点符号可以使用，如今我们还有绘文字可以用来表达情绪。那么这边有一个单字是 generation 就表示一代世代的意思。好，再来看两个重点。第一个副词片语 in addition， 它表示除此之外还怎么样，而且怎么样，像是 The cafe serves excellent coffee。In addition, it provides free Wi-Fi to its customers. 那间小餐馆的咖啡非常好喝，而且还有提供顾客免费无线上网。第二个重点 ，at one's disposal， 它是表达说可供什么使用，任凭什么处置。那么其中的名词 disposal， 它有处置、配置的意思。例如 The company's founder has several luxury cars at his disposal. 那间公司的创办人有好几辆的豪华轿车可以供他使用。好，这句话课文中。
Are punctuation marks coming to a full stop?
Still, whether we omit periods in text messages should depend on context. Punctuation rules can be relaxed when we're texting with friends, but they should be maintained for texting with coworkers and superiors and in formal writing. Otherwise, you might give the wrong impression to your reader, and that's something every writer tries to avoid.
Okay, still. Whether we omit or get rid of periods in text messages should depend on context, okay? So you can put the period in there sometimes. You don't have to always get rid of it or omit it or not include it, okay? Just look at the context in which you are writing your particular text message.
Okay, it's kind of like how we dress depending on the context, right? Casual clothes with your friends, business clothes in a work or professional situation. Think of punctuation in kind of the same way. Punctuation rules can be relaxed when we're texting with friends. Sure, you don't have to be all formal. You can be relaxed when you're texting with friends, but they should be maintained for texting with coworkers and superiors and in formal writing. When it's a more serious conversation with people who, it's a little bit more important how you present yourself, wear your nice clothes, use proper punctuation.
Okay, so there you go. If you're talking to one of your friends, don't worry about punctuation. Be relaxed. But if you're talking to a person of authority, your boss, make sure you are official, okay? Otherwise, you might give the wrong impression to your reader, and that's something every writer tries to avoid. You want to get your point across as clearly as possible. Anyways, let's talk about this word otherwise, okay? Otherwise means or else. If you don't do this thing, this will occur. That's the idea in this particular situation. For example, you should bring your umbrella. Otherwise, you will get wet in the rain, i.e., or else you will get wet in the rain. If you do not bring your umbrella, you will get wet in the rain. You could also say, if not. If not, you will get wet in the rain. Anyways, folks, we're almost there. In fact, our article, it's done with, but we still have one more vocabulary word to talk about, the noun impression.
Yeah, an impression is basically what people think of something, especially when they first see it. It's that feeling or that first emotion, that first idea you get from something. And we do often talk about first impressions, right? It's important to make a first impression because you never get another chance to do that. And it's basically when you see something for the first time, when you don't know much about it, if it's a place or a person, what's your first feeling or your first reaction? You might learn more about it later and develop a different impression, but the first impression is that first one that you get. And when we talk about doing something in a business kind of way or a work kind of way, giving a good impression is important. With your friends, not so important. They know you well. You've got a long relationship. But in business, when people are meeting you and they're trying to decide if they can work with you or trust you, making a good impression can be very important. For example, during a job interview, it's important to make a good impression. Dress well, have your hair look nice, be clean, and also with your writing, make sure it's professional. Use punctuation to give a good impression in a business situation.
Yeah. Anyways, our article is now complete, but it's now time to ask and answer the what do you think question. Do you use punctuation when you text your friends? If not, why don't you?
Well, I usually use punctuation because I don't hit send after everything I write just because I find it annoying when my friends send me a message and it goes bing, 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 and there's, 5 sentences with 5 messages and 5 of those noises. So I do usually use it just because I want them to be able to read it and see where the sentences are. but that's because I do that writing in that style.
You're so old.
I know, I'm such an old fogey.
Anyways, folks, with that, our lesson is now in the books, and it's time for us to say bye-bye.
Take care.
好，科技的发展改变了人们使用标点符号的方式。不过呢，这并不代表我们可以完全不使用标点符号。课文就写到说，尽管如此，我们是否要省略句号，应该要取决于语境。好，那么这边有3个重点。第一个重点 ，still 在这边是当副词来表达尽管如此，然而，例如 Jeremy didn't think that he was wrong. Still, he apologized to his girlfriend.Jeremy 不认为自己有错，尽管如此，他还是向女朋友道歉了。第二个重点是 whether 主词加动词 or not 表示是否怎么样怎么样。那我们可以把 or not 省略，或者是移到 whether 的后方来写作 whether or not 主词加动词。好，那特别注意 whether 在这边的用法是引导名词子句来当主词、受词或是补语用。例如I wonder whether Brad and Jennifer will get back together. 不知道 Brad 和 Jennifer 会不会复合诶？那这边注意一下 whether Brad and Jennifer will get back together 这个名词子句呢，就是当受词，也就是 wonder 的受词。好，第3个重点是 depend on， 在这边表达取决于什么，依什么什么而定。例如Whether they will arrive on time depends on the traffic. 他们是否会准时抵达，取决于交通状况。特别注意这边，我们又再度用到 whether 主词加动词，这时候 whether they will arrive on time 是当主词用，然后要把它视为单数哦，所以我们后面的 depends 是用单数动词的形式，有加上 s。好，课文最后写到说，在跟朋友传讯息的时候，可以不用太在意标点符号，但是在跟同事和上司传讯息时，还有在正式写作里面，我们还是要遵守标点符号的规则比较好，否则呢，你可能会让阅读对象呢，让你的读者留下错误不专业的印象哦。好，这边有2个单字 ，otherwise 它是副词，表示否则，要不然，然后 impression 表示印象，我们说的 first impression 就是第一印象。好，以上是这个讲解，同学们别走开，马上回来哦。
Woo! Yeah! Go cyclists! Keep it up! Wow, they did a great job, right? Is this your first time watching the Tour de France? Let me tell you some interesting things. It is a bicycle race that goes around France. Its nickname is the Big Loop. This race lasts more than 3 weeks and covers 3,500 kilometers. Can you imagine riding your bike that much? The cyclists burn about 6,000 calories per day. That is more than twice the normal amount. There are usually 20 to 22 teams in the Tour de France. Each team has 9 cyclists. During the race, the fastest cyclists get to wear a special yellow jersey. The Tour de France is one of the largest sporting events in the world. It attracts over 10 million spectators every year, and another 3.5 billion people around the world watch it on TV. Hey, I think the cyclists are coming. Let's go find a spot.
See you next time.